Currently at 1 game in this best-of-3 series. He is in the red trunks, and he is playing Terran to the southwest.
And the Cloak Banshee openings are pretty good on this map, because you can hide at the back of the expansions, and there's a lot of area just to float around. So we'll see if anybody decides to do that. And as map hacking commentators, we can see that Cloak Banshee will be even better in these positions after they have spawned close by air. But both these players are pretty much standard Marine tank players, but I do prefer DieStar's build because he delays the tanks and gets the third base up faster. But at the same time, Satiini has to be more assertive with that early tank production, because if you're going to go for it, then you need to push out earlier, and you need to try to do damage to that early third base.
Yeah, because once again, it comes down to position. You must push out, you must siege in the right place, and you need to take advantage of the number of tanks you've got and what kind of damage you can do, because when you siege, you force a limited number of reactions from your opponent, and usually it means the opponent's got to try and break through. And that can be very risky and very costly. If you've got good position and you're confident of it, you can do an insane amount of damage.
And we'll see who takes gas. DieStar takes gas, so does Satiini.
Yep.
I mean, with taking gas, if you don't take it, you're like saying to yourself, I'm not going to lose to any form of aggression, harassment. I'm going to minimize everything. And basically that's the same of what Cass said earlier on today. It was like, I'm going to try to take as little damage as possible. But at the same time, both of these players are opting for that option to do it. And will they open Reaper expand? Will they save up for that Banshee? That's the next question. And Reapers are actually pretty good on this map also.
Yeah, they are. Awesome, awesome map for it because of this right here. You can hop up, hop down in this area. It's a very short rush distance from Reaper to Reaper. And we'll see if either of them decide to go for it. Oh, nice little block right there by DieStar. And you know what? They're just going to go at it right now. They're just going to have a bit of fisticuffs going on in the center. And DieStar gets out of there before the Marine pops up.
And the second Marine being made by Satiini, so it looks like he's not going to be going Reaper. So we could actually see both Cloak Banshee openings here. At the same time, you could also see a Starport come straight after and potentially Marine Hellion, which becomes interesting. It really does come down to, do you have a Banshee, the second Banshee, to help defend while the main one is attacking? But it all comes down to now, do they take a second gas? And it looks like both of them do. So this very much so looks like both are going Cloak Banshees, and when this happens, it usually comes down to, weirdly enough, who has the better defense, who can get out the engineering bay, who can build a turret while still going for this.
Exactly, because, well, Banshees can't shoot Banshees, so that's just the way of things. Factory coming down, as you said, for both players. Double gas taken.
DieStar not doing it, man. DieStar's throwing a reactor down, and this very much could be for tanks really early. It could still be for it, but he could push out with Vikings and tanks and try to siege up on the natural. And it is a tech lab on the factory, but it still can be Cloak Banshees from here. So there still has a lot of options for both of these, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's nice that he would perhaps leave his options open as well. If he learns a new piece of information, then he may wish to change his strategy around. But the nature of the Terran add-ons right there allows him to do all sorts of things. He's moving away from that, so it may very well still be Banshee.
And Satiini's going for this drop by the looks of it. So he does throw down the tech lab, so it looks like it'll be a medivac to begin with, and then drop these units, I feel here, and then switch over with the tech lab. But we'll see, does he pick it up straight away? Maybe not. Okay, he's just going to go for it. He's got a lot of Marines out, though, in anticipation for this similar build coming out from DieStar, so he can defend it. And they are switching up now, and there's the Banshee.
It's a fake. This is a fake Cloak Banshee here, because he's got the so-called Caduceus reactor, which is never used by anything. This is designed so that if a scout comes in or a scan, it looks like it's Cloak, and in fact it is not. But Satiini is actually going for legit Cloak.
Yeah, and it's because neither of them know what's really going on. So he's just like, all right, well, if he's going to play like a standard build, then he's going to scan me about now to see if I'm going to be aggressive and then try to trick him. There's this scan landing down by Satiini. He's like, all right, well, there's the Cloak Banshee coming. And then shortly we'll see that cancel as soon as the scan goes away. And that may force an overreaction here from Satiini as the engineering bay. He also has a Raven coming out on the other hand for DieStar, but we will see turrets come down to defend this for sure.
Yes, we will. And here comes the Banshee for DieStar. It is indeed, of course, not cloaked, as we know. The cloak is on its way for Satiini, almost complete, and takes a lot of damage initially there, and isn't able to do anything just yet. He's got to be really careful. DieStar's control is good, but Satiini's defense is looking really solid at the moment. He's staying on that Banshee and not taking too much damage, loses a single SCV up to this point. Viking on the way up for Satiini as well, which is going to be absolutely fantastic, bearing in mind that he's not actually a cloak Banshee, and maybe he's figured that out by now.
Satiini is in a horrible position. The Banshee enters for Satiini, but the Raven's already out, and he's like, no! And there's enough Marines here to push this away if he pulls the Raven back. Unfortunately, takes a couple of hits there, but the position that DieStar's in, oh man.
Oh, DieStar just loses it, yeah. Satiini in a good position there for the defense, is able to pick off that Banshee.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Satiini's Banshee hasn't done a huge amount yet.
And it was a little bit of mind games that DieStar won here.
Yeah.
And this is the position he's got himself into through faking that cloak Banshee in the engineering bay, the turret, you know, the second Banshee as well. But all of a sudden, DieStar's like, all right, I know what he's doing. I'm going to build a Raven, I'm going to defend it. Yep. And now that cloak, that investment, the Banshee is now rendered useless. Yep. And instead of that investment which we saw Satiini spend on, DieStar spent on an earlier expansion is going to explode a lot faster in that mid-game.
Yeah, expansion coming down to be closely followed by an orbital command center on that natural, and things are looking very rosy for DieStar at the moment, and his TvT is really good, there's no doubt, and I like just how intelligently he's playing this. He is playing his opponent rather than the match.
Indeed he is, but Satiini not in an awful position. He has got that early engineering bay, can work on a very early +1, and then just easily transition over. It looks like he's getting tanks and siege up now with the Medivac. Medivac's interesting, probably just to heal up and make sure he defends early on against anything that comes out, because potentially Banshee still could come. Satiini at the same time though, harassing again, that Banshee up to 9, 10 kills by Satiini, and that is not SCVs in total, that is Marines as well, but nice harassment and nice usage, trying to overpay for that Banshee back so he can return the cloak.
Yeah, funnily enough, Satiini's not killed a single worker with that thing. It's all been Marines, so it's still nice. I mean, he's killed 500 minerals worth of units. It's not exactly paid for it back, but it's getting there, and it continues to remain alive, and may play a part later on. But that expansion is now up for DieStar, and things are looking good for him. The expansion has just gone up for Satiini as well. A slight edge in terms of minerals mined for DieStar, but both of these guys going into a fairly passive mode, especially with Satiini building that sensor tower, doesn't want anything coming in his direction. He'll try and continue harassment with the Banshee.
And once again, though, DieStar has opted to go for tanks a little bit earlier here, at an advantage that he's going to be pushing out, looking for, well, he has the air superiority, so he can push and hold a position a lot better than Satiini can. So this is going to be potentially a little bit awkward here for Satiini, because he's trying, he only has a single tank, and I don't know what was that? Oh, the Banshee coming in. Okay.
Banshee going in.
Oh my god,
you're under attack, Apollo.
Yeah, I was under attack then, but it does come in.
He's killed the worker.
More kills, man. It's getting more kills, and it's starting to pay for that investment, that disadvantage that he had earlier on.
Definitely, yeah. He's on 12 now, which is absolutely fantastic, even if all of that earlier gas was kind of thrown away. There is a turret there, although he can strike from this area. He's a bit vulnerable to Marines on the high ground, but there actually aren't all that many there yet, so he's going to get at least 2 more SCV kills out of this. This Banshee's proven to be really useful, not in its intended method, I suppose. Oh, well, there it goes. So that was unfortunate from Satiini there. He could have saved that.
Yeah, but it's okay though. It's done a lot of damage for Satiini, really helping him out in this game. And by all means, you know, even though one plays at a disadvantage, he's climbed back a little bit here. But the only problem is though, his unit count and army supply is very low. Therefore, he can't really push out of his natural base, which is why we do see DieStar with complete map control, who is still not opting for a third base yet. He really does want to build a good army and then just hold his position outside of the natural of Satiini, and it's going to be hard for Satiini to break it, especially because he doesn't have that Viking count either.
Oh, wow.
Oh, this is a risk, man. Wow.
It is. That's very, very risky, but he's confident about it because he's got air superiority. He's got a deployment underneath, auto turrets going down to deal with the tanks. This is really nice use of the Raven here, and DieStar can pick off another Medivac of Satiini, so this is proving to be very, very damaging.
Oh, he's going to land down 8 more Marines. Satiini needs to go in before these deploy, and he's hit a nice little move here. Yeah,
he has. Satiini's able to defend this pretty well. He's got to kill the tanks, because otherwise he's going to end up losing a ton of those units. And he stims forward, takes an awful lot more tank shelling, and DieStar is able to keep most of those tanks alive, and the army of Satiini gets crushed. DieStar takes a lot of damage in the process too, though.
And finally, that last tank does go down for Satiini for a bit of a win, but that was not the best trade there for DieStar.
It's actually crazy equal at the moment. If you look at the amount of resources lost and units, in fact, the count is only a single unit in it. It's barely different. And Satiini, however, is still behind in terms of his army supply because, yes, he traded well there, but his army was smaller to begin with.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though, because his army was smaller to begin with. He dealt with that with less units, and now he can take a third base. He just needs to siege up next to the Xel'Naga Tower, make sure he keeps the Xel'Naga Tower, and that third base is going to be very easily obtainable now for Satiini, who will have a clear economic advantage going into the next stage of the game. But DieStar still hasn't got a third command center down. Every minute that this game goes on, Satiini's economy becomes stronger, and because of that, his production will also become stronger, and he'll have more stuff out. So right now, DieStar has to do damage. He has to try and squeeze the small units of Satiini down to minimal. But it's going to be difficult if Satiini's sieged up.
Yeah, this is Shakura's plateau in a nutshell, but a quick stim does absolutely nothing, and Satiini is able to annihilate the ground troops, and even gets a few shots off on the air units as well. DieStar with air superiority at the moment is causing a couple of problems for Satiini here, though.
And he threw in 5 Marines to try to pick off that last tank, but Satiini holds again. And even if he doesn't have the air advantage, he has the Xel'Naga Tower, which is basically the same thing, because he can still see everything. So an awesome position Satiini's in, and he just needs to establish this third base up, get it mining efficiently, and he'll continue with his advantage into the later stages. So Satiini now crawling back into this game, which he definitely was at a disadvantage.
Oh yeah, he's fighting really well at the moment, and he's got great positions. Shakura's is all about positional play in TvT, so much to the point where some players have got so sick of it that they transition to late game air to stop this from happening. But Satiini is playing this very, very well. Not to take away from DieStar, though, who is still holding. The units lost, there's nothing in it. There's like 70 minerals in it.
Yeah, absolutely, but he can't lose range of that. He can't lose control of the Xel'Naga Towers. He could get flanked, he could lose everything there. So a little bit of a mistake from Satiini, definitely needs to hold that. But he's covered his back with the sensor tower as well. So all his units can be in the front. He can now spread across, actually build another command center. As weird as that sounds, he can expand against Satiini.
Yeah, of course.
And just stretch his economy advantage even further. But the unit tab does show DieStar with a little bit of an advantage at 70 SCV split across 3 bases. But Satiini, man, getting a little bit eager here.
Interesting. I have to wonder if that was the wisest move, honestly. He comes down the left flank with those Marines, and DieStar is able to crush it. But can he kill the tanks? Looks like he's got 2 more at the back that remain alive. Satiini, however, has the advantage in terms of the number of tanks and is able to crash his way through, losing all of his Marines in the process, except for those 2 in that medevac. But who fires first? DieStar gets the last shot off on that, and nothing of value was taken.
And Satiini is so lucky, guys. There are 6 full medivacs up there which were not in that fight. Imagine if those medivacs were in that fight. Satiini loses difference. Everything there. So Satiini took a bit of a gamble to move out there, and he gets away lucky with that for sure, as the medivac didn't even come into play. Now DieStar's like, oh yeah, crap, forgot about them. Brings him to his army, but next time he won't be making that same mistake again. So Satiini has to be careful, but he lost a lot of tanks there, and he has only just now got the 2nd factory up and running. He's actually kind of low, and I think that DieStar's at 3 factories now, if I'm not mistaken.
We can have a look at his infrastructure.
No, it's just 2.
He's actually 2, yeah. He's only building 1. He's now building 2 tanks at a time. So Satiini does have an edge in that respect. He can replenish his tanks faster, and that may give him the edge to push forward in the center here.
And once again, we do have DieStar moving down. Oh no, taking the Xel'Naga Tower. And if he keeps that and has tank siege there, he can crawl towards Satiini's expansion, which of course would be the worst case scenario. And oh my god, he's simming in!
Oh yeah, he does go for it, but there's a siege tank at the back that's doing terrible, terrible damage to DieStar's front forces. Still, there are 4 tanks at the back though, and both these guys this is just push and shove. It's a tug of war, but Satiini has actually started to fall behind in terms of what he's losing. There's now 1,000 resources in it.
I mean, he lost so much. That little push in the middle hurt him so much. He's losing waypointed units in there. He doesn't have that many medivacs compared to DieStar. He's actually at an upgrade, humongous disadvantage.
Drop in the back right here for the natural, and some damage being inflicted. DieStar is doing quite well in that respect, and he kills a decent number of workers, and that's what he really needs to edge his way back in.
Absolutely, but without the upgrade, Satiini is just going to go further and further behind. DieStar soon to be at 2-2 on his Marines and is also working on the +1 vehicle. So in the last game, it was almost flipped around where we saw Satiini work very hard on them. But not this time, man. And that drop's going to come in once again, and there are no units here. Satiini didn't leave anything to defend.
Yeah, he can even deploy outside of the range of that sensor tower, which will be ideal. DieStar's just sitting pretty. He's got 4 bases up versus his opponent's 3 right there. The drop is coming in. A stimmer's coming forward at the same time. And there you go. He can clean that mineral line out, make sure it doesn't get to mine for a little while. Quick pickup, and DieStar's actually even going to get away with it, the sneaky little bugger. And in the meantime, DieStar is pretty much at the halfway line. He's got control of both Xel'Naga towers.
Yeah, the medevac count 13 versus 3. Man, these Marines are not going to die. They're well upgraded now as well. Satiini is spread like really so much tight in the middle that it's going to be almost unbreakable. But these drops are just tearing him apart. There's another one in the main, the same one in the main here as well.
Yeah, just 3 Marines, but hell, with +2, it doesn't really make much of a difference. Yeah. And now there's this huge window, I feel, for DieStar to exploit. He's just hit 2-2, he's just hit 200. Now is the time to go for it. He realizes he goes for it. Satiini has good defensive positioning there. Doesn't react quite as quickly as he needs to. Oh, a blast of siege tank fire completely annihilates Satiini's ground army, and he goes for a quick drop on top of the tanks to clean it up. He kills 1. He's actually slaughtering those tanks quite rapidly there, but it doesn't matter. He doesn't have what he needs. There's the GG.